Alright, I want you to listen to something here that Geezer Butler said in a very old interview about the satanic influence over Black Sabbath and their music. And after we listen to Geezer Butler talk, I'm gonna make a couple of comments of my own, and then we're gonna listen to some things that Tony Iommi had to say, and then I'm gonna ask you for your thoughts, so stay tuned. Let's start off with listening to what Geezer Butler had to say about Satanism in Black Sabbath's music.
Well, what was your standpoint on that phase of your career with satanic overtones and the occult?
It was, well, the stuff that we were writing, it wasn't just satanic and all that, so it was like everything. But of course the moral majority sort of people picked up on the satanic part of it. I mean, most of it was about stopping wars and all, you know, that's the side of it, and a lot of science fiction stuff. And there wasn't that much satanic stuff. And what there was, it wasn't exactly for the devil or anything like that, you know, it was around at the time. We were just bringing it to people's attention.
Okay, so a couple of the points that he's making there are that the satanic imagery in Black Sabbath's music was never meant to show a specifically religious urge toward worshiping the devil or an immersion in traditionally satanic theology. What it was doing was tying the idea of satanic philosophy to problems in the world like war and greed, corruption, things like this. That it was only a part of their music and not the main part of their music, or not the way that people took it. So what he's saying also is that the satanic imagery that Black Sabbath did use in their music may not have been intended the way that people typically interpret it. Now I want you to listen to some things that Tony Iommi said about occult and satanic influence on Black Sabbath. Here's Tony Iommi.
We dabbled in it in the early days because we were young and, you know, you're inquisitive, really. But as far as any kind, we never sacrificed anybody on stage or anything like that. It was, the image was built up basically from when we did the first album. The record company did the album cover, and that's what done it. The inside of the cover was upside down cross, and so that sort of started everybody off. And
you've got your cross on today the right way up.
Yes, it's always the right way up.
And then I wonder if that's a kind of makes it a little bit disingenuous, really, the idea of being from the dark side. It was a sort of cheap thrill for the audience.
No, we believe in what we did, what we play, and everything we play is we have to feel it and believe in it.
All right, so I'm going to read a little bit between the lines of what he's saying there, and this may not be exactly what Tony Iommi had in mind in his comments, so I'm going to put a little bit of spin on it. But what I think he's trying to say there is, yes, we were very interested in the occult, we were interested in Satanism when we were young, we put it into our music, and then later it became an aspect of what we were doing, but it wasn't the primary aspect of what we were doing. And furthermore, we never wanted it to be the primary aspect of our image or what we were doing. This was a decision that was made by some PR people who put together the imagery on the album cover. So, while he's not denying that he had dabbled in the occult and in Satanism, he's specifically saying that Black Sabbath isn't a satanic band, that the satanic imagery that's in their music is only incidental to the other things that they're doing. Goes on further in this interview to talk about the fact that he doesn't feel there's a connection between Black Sabbath's lyrics and certain listeners who had committed suicide, allegedly because of the band or because of the evil influence of the band, and he doesn't believe that the band has brought harm to people because so many people had their lives healed by it, particularly veterans of Vietnam War and other people who had suffered traumas in their life. So the reason that I bring this up is because I think both of Geezer and Tony Iommi are being incredibly honest in their responses here. They're saying, yes, we were interested in occult things. We were interested in Satanism. We used satanic imagery in our music. We wanted to create music that was slightly dark and disturbing, but we're not a satanic band. We're simply using that kind of imagery to make art. Now, personally, I'm prepared to take them at their word here. I think that when people accuse bands of being satanic, sometimes their imaginations are running away with them, because I don't feel that bands are even as close as people as they are generally believed to be. In other words, you could have 4 people in a band like Black Sabbath and not even 2 of them share the same religious vision or the same idea of what even Satanism is. And I think that would be true in Black Sabbath, even in the early days where you had someone like Geezer Butler, who was somewhat serious and has always been somewhat interested in religion and in the dark arts and in the history of the occult, but would tell you to your face that he's an atheist. The same would be true for Bill Ward, who may not have the same interest in the occult as Geezer Butler, but is also an atheist. All 4 of the members at one time or another wore Christian crosses, and they were very careful to point out that they felt that their music was the product of a higher source of inspiration. They don't take that higher source of inspiration to be the devil. Whether or not others do, that's up to each individual listener. But what I'm saying is the band themselves don't believe that. They're not openly, consciously looking to create some sort of following for the devil. What they're doing is using satanic imagery to create dramatic, culturally relevant, and sometimes very radically disturbing type of imagery, particularly for the late 60s and early 70s. So my final word on this is that you should probably listen to what the band says and not what rumors say about the band. And if Black Sabbath has a satanic influence, it's no more of an influence over their music than the archetype of Satan and the devil is over traditional blues music. But what I'd like to hear from you is, do you feel Black Sabbath would have been as momentous and powerful and important of a band had they not included satanic imagery in their music? Had they avoided it conspicuously and tried to just make heavy music that was just purely about other topics, more along the lines of what Deep Purple was doing? For me, the satanic imagery and the horror imagery and occultism that is part of Black Sabbath is necessary in order for the band to make the statements that they're making. A song like War Pigs wouldn't be the same if it didn't have its satanic imagery, but there's nothing in that song that marks the band themselves as being Satanists. And the same can be true for a song like Iron Man, where Geezer Butler is on record saying that the Iron Man figure in the song is a Christ figure. The same way that Christ was crucified for trying to save people, Iron Man is rejected by those he tries to save. This is what I think, but what really matters is what you think. So if you have an idea about this or any other topic connected to classic or contemporary music, please drop it in the section below, and remember to like and subscribe. If you would like